Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And if you're joining for the first time, this is part of our e-commerce series for which we meet every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and we pick one vendor or the solution that we review independently. And for today, we are going to be reviewing another hot platform called Spryker, and they are also part of the Headless Gang. So we are going to have a lot of fun discussing that. Before we do that, we are going to start with everybody's intros. I am going to start with my intro. If you don't know me, I am your host, Sam Gupta. I'm principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP, digital transformation and e-commerce consulting firm, and we help our clients with ERP selection, any sort of solution architecture, project recoveries, etc. On that note, I am going to move to Phil for his intro.
Hi, everybody. Phil Kerper with Ringling Business Solutions. We help executive leadership teams align their digital transformation with their core business processes and particularly take a holistic view at the investments in IT and make sure that you're getting the biggest return and the best outcomes you can get. So happy to be here tonight, Sam.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Phil. Robert, can I ask you to introduce yourself next?
Certainly. Robert Brown with Robert Brown e-commerce consultancy. I come with 20 years of Fortune 50 e-commerce and digital experience, helping small to medium-sized businesses grow to the next level.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Robert. And if you are in the audience and joining for the first time, make sure that you guys are going to send your questions and comments. Our panelists are going to make sure that we answer them during the show. If we run out of time, then we'll make sure that you are going to receive your answers. On that note, I am going to start with the briefing for today's vendor or the solution. So guys, and I don't know if you guys have had a chance to do any research on these guys, but as I mentioned, they seem to be part of the Headless Gang. They have fairly high valuation, and all of these companies are valued at like what, $1 billion, I guess. I think their recent funding round was for I believe roughly $200 million, closer to that, somewhere around that. So, which is obviously a big deal. Now, the reason why these companies are getting so much funding, and I personally like Spryker solution a lot. Okay, and I'll tell you why I like it. So, when you look at the enterprise play overall in the headless space, when you look at the SMB market, obviously you are going to have a lot of different tools. Here, what Spryker is trying to do is they are really into that marketplace play. Okay, I don't know if there are a lot of different e-commerce platforms out there that can support the internal marketplaces. And when you say internal marketplaces, meaning let's say you have Amazon. Amazon is trying to create the marketplace for their own suppliers and vendors, and that's what a lot of different OEMs are trying to do. And when you have to do that, you are looking at millions and millions of dollars to build your own infrastructure. Now, Spryker is actually providing you all of those capabilities. So when we are going to be looking at the solution, it has very deep capabilities overall in terms of the way your business units are going to be. It has a lot of different flavors of the roles and approval flows, the way your ERP systems are going to be structured. This is how they have thought about the e-commerce platform. Obviously, that is going to be very powerful when you are going to have very regulated B2B organizations, when you need to have control in terms of the price, in terms of what each of the customers and vendors are going to see on your e-commerce platform. That's where the real depth is going to be of the Spryker platform. The other depth that I have seen in some of the reviews is going to be the number of transactions and the speed of those transactions. It's just mind-blowing. Okay, they are processing billions and billions of transactions, and I don't know any other platform. If you are going to find any other platform that is going to be equally capable, they are going to be super legacy, super ugly. Okay, so the difference between Spryker versus some of those legacy platforms, such as if you talk about SAP Hybris or Oracle ATG, I guess those are going to be the ones that are going to be really strong in those transactions and providing those IT capabilities that you are going to be needing. But then you still require a lot more IT capabilities in order to deliver on those platforms. With the Spryker, you have best of both worlds. Number one, you are getting the enterprise capabilities, and number two, you are getting the CMS capabilities as well, plus the transaction capabilities. So I'm gonna pause there. I'll open up the floor for your commentary. Robert, do you want to start?
I like some of the things that Spryker is doing. They're based on PHP. They're part of the open code, so they actually have published their code into GitHub, so it allows people to actually take a look at the code and poke around before they actually purchase to see if it's a platform. But a lot of these big shops are very code specific. So if you come from a Java shop, the likelihood that you're willing to look at a PHP product is pretty slim. So that's certainly a consideration.
Okay, amazing. Phil, any commentary?
Yeah, the headless or kind of turning upside down to say let's really be a developer tool that allows a ton of customization is interesting, and there's a couple folks that are trying to turn the thought process in this industry upside down a little bit. So it's fascinating, but you got to have some sophisticated IT capabilities. You got to be focused on innovation and focused on really making your front end and your customer experience very customized and very specific for what you want, versus buying something that has a lot of functionality that you're going to use out of box and maybe tweak it. This is buying something that allows you to really customize and make the front end of your business specific to what you're trying to do. But it certainly is a developer aimed type of platform, it looks like to me.
Okay, amazing insights there. So I will start with the slides if you guys don't have any other comments. So here, I think this is the article that is coming from Crunchbase or TechCrunch. And here they are saying Spryker, which provides a full suite of e-commerce tools for businesses. And when they say full suite, I think they are mentioning a lot of different things, from the punch-out integration capabilities. They have far deeper capabilities in terms of the vendor collaboration and your customer collaboration, that whole marketplace play. But we are going to be reviewing their capabilities deeply. And I personally was expecting a little bit more overall from the marketplace perspective. So when I think of the marketplaces are deeper in the enterprise capability. So I don't know how effective they are going to be. Let's say if they are trying to build something like Amazon in terms of marketplace, but you are going to get something out of the box, but then you probably need to develop on top of that, if you are trying to create the real marketplace experience. So here they are saying, starting with a platform to bring a company's inventory online. That's the whole intent of e-commerce. How that inventory is selling and where, and then adding voice commerce, subscriptions, click and collect, IoT commerce. Now, when you look at these patterns, to be honest, I mean, they are very complex. Okay, enabling click and collect experience, enabling subscription-based business model, voice commerce. I don't know if any other platforms can really do that. And IoT commerce is going to be another ball game overall. And that's why headless is just so hot, because you are going to get far many interfaces where consumers are going to be interacting with your shop. So you are going to be publishing your inventory everywhere, and that's probably going to be a nightmare for an ERP guy to be able to synchronize that across the channels. But seems like these guys are at least trying to get there, and which is why I like headless a lot overall. As the movement, as the platform. So here, this is the round that they have closed. So I think the 130 million is what they have quoted here. I mentioned 200. It's pretty close, right? Okay. What else do we have here? There are some of the other platforms. So here they are saying Series C was led by TCB, the investor. Okay, they have other companies in the portfolio, Facebook, Airbnb, etc. And they are trying to provide the interesting and upcoming e-commerce plumbing startup like Spryker, Relics, and more. And on a daily basis, I am seeing that an e-commerce startup is popping up. So I don't know what is going to happen to all of these startups. So there are at least 50 companies that I know that are providing, or probably more, to be honest, okay, that are providing some sort of e-commerce capabilities. In the case of e-commerce, obviously, it's going to be very niche down, because each industry is going to have very unique requirement And Phil, we have seen that in case of, if you talk about apparel, the whole e-commerce workflow is very different in general. So it seems that they are probably going to have some place, but there is always going to be a balance of the customization versus how much development capabilities you are providing as part of the platform. Now, they are saying Spryker today has around 150 customers. And my understanding is that they are not majorly from North America. In general, North America seems to be slightly behind in the e-commerce capabilities. If I look at a site from Europe, they just seem to be better, to be honest. Okay, for some reason, I don't know if they have better developer, designer, or they just have more appetite for e-commerce. But overall experience, if you compare the sites that are built, for example, let's say on Commerce Tools or Spryker, the experience seems to be better in terms of the site speed, in terms of the quality of the development, in terms of the customer experience. So I don't know why that is happening, but companies from Europe seems to be slightly ahead overall in terms of their appetite for e-commerce and e-commerce experience. And these customers are primarily going to be from Europe. They are not from North America. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any comment, I can take.
Yeah, a couple quick ones on that slide, Sam. First of all, maybe and I looked at a couple of their customer sites, and they are gorgeous, and they're very innovative, and you can tell the product is innovative with that their customers are selling as well. The last week we talked about automotive. Maybe the European lead as far as some of these headless and some of these more innovative commerce sites are from the types of customers that are really central in Europe, like some of those car companies in Europe are beautiful experience and use this type of software to do it. The Internet of Things is another comment I had on this. They got somewhat of a case study on their site on this, and it's really about where different pieces of equipment in a B2B environment are self-ordering supplies or self-ordering service, and how they're able to connect that B2B experience directly into the commerce site, which is very innovative and forward-looking. But on the other hand, I mean, they're worth $500 million. This is their third round, and they got 150 customers for $50 million annually. So it still is. They're still early here, just as a startup with 3 rounds of funding.
Yeah.
So someone's going to try to take this headless space and come out of there as the leader, and hopefully for them, hopefully turn into one of the next big things.
One of the things that helps being European based is you're forced to deal with complexity. So they're multilingual, multi-currency, cross-border. You're in the EU, but even in the EU, you still have other currencies and all those languages. And, all of those e-commerce folks have to learn to deal with that complexity and continue to move their product. And here in the US, we've got volume, but it's usually single, maybe dual language, and that's it. So we've seen a lot of really interesting development in other sectors come out of Europe. And, I think the US needs to look at some of the European products more than they do.
Yeah, completely agree, guys. Great comments there. So here we have, some more comments, and this is their slide basically for the product variant. And now this is going to appear very similar to the other products that we have reviewed. For example, let's say if we compare this with the product called 3D Cart that we reviewed roughly 2 weeks back. I think the variant functionality is going to be fairly similar, but in their case, obviously, the SKU number is going to be different. I don't know if the SKU number was different in the case of 3D Cart. So those are some of the nuances that you are probably going to be seeing. And this is, applicable for B2B scenario. And that's why they are going to have far deeper capabilities to be able to support those variants and options. And when you are going to be in the style vertical and fill, as we saw in case of apparel, that, the number of layers that you are going to have overall from the options perspective, it gets really deep. And any company that is playing in that space probably need to have very deep product model to be able to support that. But in their case, it does seem that they have the individual SKU per variant, and variant has the very specific functionality where you can have the enable or disable any specific attributes. My assumption is going to be I think Shopify does have that limitation. They can support only 99. That's my understanding of the Shopify platform. I don't know, Robert, if there are any changes with that. I think BigCommerce is going to have a lot of limitations around the options. It's not as deep as what you are going to find in the case of Magento or any other enterprise platforms such as Spryker.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's on that. So now here, one of the things that I personally liked about this platform is going to be ability to localize your variants, and that is going to be very unique as well. And this is probably to your comment, Robert, when you said that when you have to support multiple countries in the European geography, which is very complex in general, compared to your North America, where you are supporting only two languages, probably two currencies. There you are supporting probably 10 or 15 or 20. So here your the variants are going to be very localized. That is going to be in terms of the language that they speak, the terms that they are going to use. So you are going to be localizing all of that. And then you have the concept of super attribute. That is fairly unique. I don't think we have seen that in any other platform. So you can enable that at the template level, and then any of the child variant that you are going to have, you don't have to maintain the separate version. And Phil, if I remember correctly, I believe 2 or 3 months back, you mentioned your pain point about this whole SKU maintenance. So this is where you are going to get that enterprise capability, where you don't have to worry about maintaining, each variant of SKU whenever you are going to have just one change on the SKU, and then you are probably modifying it 100 different places when the underlying product is still the same.
And for the target customers who, to your point on the capacity to accept a lot of volume without caching and without other techniques, which is amazing, on top of being able to connect the variants together, child parent. So when you're maintaining it, I mean, those go hand in hand and are awesome features.
Yeah, could not agree more. Okay, so their capabilities are slightly deeper. That's what I could find compared to some of the other platforms that we have seen so far. For example, let's say if we compare this with 3D Cart, then the options are probably going to appear similar, but then they have things such as product groups, which are separate from your related products. So in case of 3D Cart, we could see that. And again, I don't think 3D Cart is really the comparison here, because I don't think they can handle the volume that Spryker is going to have. So even if they are going to be functionally very similar product, and that's how most customers like to choose the product. But if you look at the deep technical capabilities, the Spryker is going to be far more capable platform to be able to handle the workload that I don't think 3D Cart is going to be able to handle. But let's say if we compare functionally as well, Spryker is going to have far deeper capabilities in terms of defining the product labels. So they have a separate object that you can utilize to define different labels that you want to have for the clearance item, for the sales items. So that maintenance is going to be easier. They have product groups, which is very different from your related products. They have separate category for that. So product group is going to be useful in fashion vertical, in apparel vertical, when you have to group two unrelated products based on a particular property. For example, it could be season or color that you can do inside e-commerce, and those products are not going to be related as such. You are simply grouping them using the product group feature. These are the product labels that I was talking about. I don't think we have seen product labels anywhere else, and that could either require the customization or add-ons. I don't know how customers typically handle, but this is definitely a very neat functionality where you are going to be releasing some of the featured products, or products on sale or clearance. So that's where the nuanced functionality is going to be when you look at the e-commerce features. Then this is the relations one, and here the relations are far deeper as well. So here you are defining the entire tree in terms of how those products are going to be appearing on your site. So you are literally defining that hierarchy in the back end, and then you have very deep approval flow and the permission flow that is embedded as part of your data model. That's where I like the depth of the data model with Spryker. And again, they are far more, that's why they are far more capable overall. because of all of these features that they have at the data model level, and not just some fancy features that they are trying to enable from UI.
Yeah, and I wonder where that compares with a customer, right? Because this is obviously much deeper, but product relationships, that those features on some level exist in all of these front end products, right? To be able to drop different relationships between products, some of them parent-child, some of them not. But this just looks like you're able to build it exactly the way you want it, which looks powerful, Sam. As someone, does this show a difference between headless and some of the out-of-box ones as far as the depth you can go on this because you're actually developing it the way you want?
So, on your comment about headless, so this platform you can utilize as headless, but right now what we are looking at is the CMS capability, right?
Okay, so this is their package functionality kind of out of box, or should I think of it that way?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
this is going to be a platform the way you are going to get in case of your Magento or App Server or any other enterprise grade platform, where marketers can go and they can set up their data the way they want. But then you also have the headless capability where programmers can go and they can customize whatever they want as well. So you have best of both worlds. In case of commerce,
that's super helpful. So that's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so the Spryker marketing team has done a pretty good job. When you look at their site and look at their technologies, they've actually grouped it. So they have the composable commerce, which is plug and play with anybody. So you can get the best in breed of whoever you want, which is what most organizations are going to do. But they also do the pre-packaged functionality. So if you know kind of what you want to do, they can put together the package for you and hand it off to make it a little bit easier for you to get up and running pretty quickly. And then they have the PaaS cloud.
Got it.
Yeah, and Phil, about your comment on product grouping, that most of the products do the product grouping in some shape or form. The only difference with Spryker is going to be you have additional layers. Okay, so you are not going to have as many layers with the other platforms. For example, let's say if you look at your SMB platforms, then you are probably going to have some sort of kit and bundles. So Spryker has the official support for kits and bundles. They have support for your product group, which is different from your kits and bundles. Okay, then you have labels, which is completely different concept. Then you have product relations, which is completely different concept. So the number of layers that you have to be able to build your product hierarchy, whether you are building for your product recommendations or you are simply building it because you want to group similar price products or cross sell, upsell, whatever you want to try. You have many different tools in your toolbox to be able to enable that. You will run out of those options with these smaller platforms because they are not going to have as many layers.
Yeah, that gets at the functional comparison, but really helpful on the different ways. And Robert, the way you put it there, the different ways that they're offering you a way to get into the product and a way to have the product match to what you're really doing is super, super interesting.
We've talked about this before. It's really important for organizations to realize that when you're going to re-platform, you really need to take a look at whatever your processes are in place and try to do as much off the shelf from the product as possible. That allows you to actually hit the market a lot faster and a lot less expensively. If you try to replicate everything that you've been doing before with a new platform, that can just bog you down a really long time.
Yeah, great comments, guys. So here on this slide, I think this is the major differentiator that I don't think I have personally seen in any other platforms. So here you are defining your business units the way you would define in your ERP. And this is going to be as part of one platform where you have all of those relationships as well as the approval flow and the data sharing agreement, mentioned right inside the platform. In my mind, I think it is extremely powerful. Because most of the companies or the platforms, the way they are going to handle this is they are going to have separate platform for each of the marketplace that you might be. When I say marketplace, meaning geography that you might be selling or the brands that you might be selling. So you are maintaining 50 different databases to be able to sell that. And then when you have to integrate, it's going to be harder. Here you are maintaining as part. I don't know from the technology perspective, because I saw one of the review where one of the users said that, this is probably not in the same database. So I don't know if there are any nuances there as well. But based on the way it appears, it almost seems like as if they are actually building that multi-entity functionality. That is typically part of your ERP, where you can have all of your business units, and then you have the data sharing agreement along with the addresses for your warehouses as well. So you have very deep hierarchy overall, that you can specify inside Spryker. Okay, so this is a very, very, very neat functionality that, again, I have not seen anywhere else, but this is going to be hiding the price. I don't know if everybody is going to be okay with that, but in the case of B2B, in some cases, you might want to hide the price because you might be offering different price to different tiers of your customers. So that is probably going to be really handy when you are working with many different suppliers. They might be at different tiers. So this is a very neat feature that they have support for it out of the box. Okay, so I am overall a bit confused. Honestly speaking, I have seen a lot of different videos for the marketplace functionality. So honestly speaking, none of the videos really have a clear demonstration of how the marketplace functionality is going to work. It does appear very patchy. They have a lot of different things that you can enable from the technical perspective, but I don't have a clear picture in my mind how the marketplaces are going to work with Spryker. I don't know if you guys saw anything different based on the research that you may have done, but seems like this whole, the way you are sharing your shopping list, the way you are sharing your shopping cart, okay, the way you are sharing it with each of the business units, that's where the marketplace functionality is going to be really critical, because you are enabling each of the vendors based on whatever you want them to do. So that's where the complexity is. You are not just opening the whole store that, okay, go and sell whatever you want. That's not typically how the marketplace model works, because sometimes what you have to do is you are going to limit your vendor. Okay, I'm going to give you just one product, see how you perform, and then I am going to open up more product for you. So you need those governance workflow as part of the platform, and I think that's where this functionality is going to be very handy. Now, so here they are talking about sharing the shopping list. And by the way, shopping cart and shopping list, these are two different concepts, and they are doing a lot more from the efficiency perspective. You can share the whole shopping list from the B2B perspective. So let's say if you buy 350 products on a weekly basis, they are making it really easy in sharing that shopping list across customer. Let's say if you want to share that, so they have a lot of different workflows from the B2B perspective or user experience. So I personally like that. Okay, the other feature that I am a big fan. Okay, so now when you are looking at billions and billions of transactions, okay, and enterprise search, Phil knows this, and that's why he's smiling. So here not only you have the Elasticsearch that is going to be enabled as part of your platform, but you can utilize whichever search engine you like, at places wherever you like. So you can literally rip apart and use the search engine that you like. And again, when you talk about those billion transactions, that's where your search capabilities are going to be extremely handy, because if your search is going to be slow, good luck with that e-commerce experience. Nobody's going to buy from you. So that's where I like this one a lot. And then obviously you have many different ways of controlling the permissions that you can for the marketplaces. So I like those features a lot as well. Any comments, guys? I can take some comments.
I love the fact that they actually are talking about workflows. A lot of the tools that we've discussed in the past do not specifically talk about workflows. So that's a much more sophisticated level.
Yeah, completely agree. Phil, anything?
Nope, good with this one, but it's impressive.
Yeah. Okay, so this is where the merchant relations are going to be handy. And again, I don't have a clear picture in terms of how the marketplace is going to work in this particular case. So here you have the merchant relations, where you have the merchant name, you have the business unit owner, So it's very similar to how ERP systems are going to be treating this when they are going to be dealing with those B2B hierarchies. But here you are talking about that permission enablement for each of the merchants that you might have as part of your distribution network. So you have complete control in terms of what you want to do with them. But I don't know if the hierarchy is going to be deep enough to be able to support all of those enterprise workflows. That's where my thought process is. I'm just not able to visualize in my head how this marketplace is going to work, and if the companies are going to have enough control based on the kind of customers that they have signed. They seem super happy, so obviously they should have a really good marketplace experience, and that's why they are happy. Or maybe they are happy because they don't have any other options. So so whatever they are getting is probably better than anything else. But overall, I like the way they have done. I mean, I would like to see a little bit more marketplace functionality in their demos that is not available so far. So I don't know if that exists or does not exist. So that is going to be in terms of overall the order splitting functionality. I don't know, if you are going to require that when you are going to have multiple vendors, because you might get one large order that you are going to be sending to multiple vendors. I don't know if that is possible, but I can see some scenarios in the marketplace, and then some sort of lead collaboration workflow as well, which I did not see in their demo. So those would be my question in terms of the marketplace experience and how capable these marketplaces are going to be. Let's say if you are trying to create your own marketplace, then you are going to have far deeper capabilities in enabling the entire workflow. I didn't see that in case of Spryker. Once we review some more tools, then we'll probably know if any other tools are going to have better capabilities for marketplace. But overall, the marketplace business model is fairly new. When you talk about the platform play, we don't have a lot of platforms that originally supported these marketplaces. So hopefully, they are going to be developing a lot more features there. Comment, Phil?
I was going to say, I guess it's a little surprising. I guess it's where they're at in their development. But if you look at the way they're presenting, the customers they're chasing, you would think they'd be a little farther along here than what it looks like they are.
Exactly. Robert, you have something?
Well, looking at the size of their customers, I think, the guys that are signing on know what they're getting, have the development teams in place to make happen what they want to have happen. So some of their big customers are Rioche, Aldi, and Toyota. There is no lack of funds there to achieve what they want.
Exactly, guys. So some more comments here. Overall, they are providing a lot more capabilities in terms of their order entry, which I like a lot. It's really neat. So you can really specify your SKUs and the your quantity or whatever, and then the order entry is going to be really slick. I wish other e-commerce platforms supported capabilities like this. This is really neat. In terms of parsing that data and doing the P2P ordering. Some more features, reorder functionality. I don't think we have seen that with other platforms. So here you are literally reordering and you are doing the duplicate right from the order itself. And some of these orders could be extremely complex because they could have 300,000 different line items. And if you need to replicate that order, reorder functionality is going to be super critical, especially for B2B customers. If you are talking about B2C, it's very rare that consumers are going to order unless they are ordering something that they need on a regular basis. But here, B2B companies work slightly differently, and that's where you reorder the duplication functionality is probably going to be really handy. So these are some of the B2B specific features that they have highlighted, which is going to be your customer specific prices. I think customer specific prices you are probably going to find in BigCommerce, Magento obviously, and then customer group you are going to probably find in both. So obviously that's probably not a differentiator. But let's say, I don't know, blacklist, whitelist products. I don't know if that is going to be there in those products. Maybe you would need an add-on to be able to do that, but that's definitely a very thick feature overall from the B2B experience perspective. Shopping cart buying thresholds. Now we are getting really deep overall in terms of the functionality. I don't think other platforms would have the shopping card thresholds and the approval flow. And when you are, let's say, doing the marketplace, if you are working with very deep channel, then you probably would require these controls to be able to control the channels. And in some regulated products as well, I think I can see some use cases there. Phil, I don't know if you're going to have any comments there.
Yeah, I like you say, I'd like to see some use cases on this of where exactly. I mean, I understand what they're saying, and I can see. I'm not sure that. I'm surprised they're highlighting that. And again, I'm thinking back to what Robert said earlier of some of their large customers. I don't know why they would use a threshold like that, but I'd like to see some use cases on it to think more about it.
So I was looking at some of the reviews on G2, and this goes back to something that we've been talking about for the last couple of months, and it's the appropriate size business for the appropriate size solution. And so here's a small business, 50 or fewer employees. Their IT project manager responded, said, implementation of a great e-commerce solution. What do you like best? Great cooperation from the Spryker team. They are always there to help you. Strict architecture rules, easy to scale. What do you dislike? No simple front-end features. Some B2B functionality isn't easily installed for B2C. So, we've been saying this every single show. You really need to know what you're trying to achieve and match that to the tool that you're looking at. And because, there's some great features here. I mean, there's some great things to think about this tool, but it doesn't necessarily apply to every situation.
Could not agree more. And if you are going to be a small B2C shop, I don't see a reason why you would go for something like Spryker. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Right.
So great points there, Robert. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely points at B2B, and it points at even if you're buying some of their out of box, less customizable stuff, it still is someone focused on a pretty complex business model, right?
Yeah. And guys, and this is where I am super confused, and I was trying to do a little bit more research overall in terms of the punch out functionality. I know, so this is going to be, let's say, if you have things like Ariba or Coupa, your customers might have, and you are going to be integrating with them. So these are going to be slightly more, either it could be applicable both from the vendor side perspective as well as from the customer perspective. So here they are saying that, you could integrate, with your punch out. So my assumption here is going to be that you are probably integrating from the customer perspective. I could not see a clear view in terms of where exactly are you integrating that. And typically, when you have that kind of integration in the e-commerce play, a lot of companies, what they like to do is, punch out always integrates with your e-commerce. And architecturally speaking, in my mind, it doesn't have to be that way always, unless you have a reason to do so. When you are trying to enable the omni-channel experience and all of your, sales channels are going to go through your e-commerce, then punch out could be handy, but then you could actually do that through your ERP as well. So I'm not sure, why you would bring the punch outs here, because architecturally speaking, again, the architecture is going to be far easier. As soon as you bring to the centralized platform, you are going to have far more control overall, on your inventory. You don't have inventory sitting at two places. The only thing you have to reconcile is going to be your, whatever is setting in your e-commerce. So it's just going to be easier workflow. But let's say if you are bringing all of your punch out transaction to your e-commerce, it's slightly, more difficult. And I don't know if this is going to be really the customer side or the vendor side, because this could be applicable at both places. But here they are saying shop by supplier. So again, I'm a bit confused overall in their punch out functionality. Phil, any comments there by any chance?
Yeah, this one I was trying to think through as well when I saw it before the show. Why are they doing? I kept asking myself this question you asked. Why are they doing that here? And there must be a reason, right? Because it's pretty strong functionality just from looking at the screen, but they're doing it right up front like that. I'm not sure I understand why that would be, and unless you just don't have a strong back-end system or you don't have that capability back there, are the two things that would come to mind, I guess.
Yeah, but a lot of different e-commerce platforms and the implementations that we have seen, Phil, they always like to integrate e-commerce platform with customers punch out system, because customers are going to send the order. Those are actually going to come to your e-commerce. But in my mind, when you think of B2C versus B2B separation, sure, B2B is getting a lot of e-commerce capabilities as well. But now you are keeping all of your customers in your e-commerce platform, then you have all of those problems where you have to reconcile the customer. You are keeping at two different places, right? So that is my personal challenge in terms of bringing the punch out customers to your e-commerce platform. In my mind, you should probably be taking directly to ERP, because I don't see a reason why they should be coming here.
Right, because you're gonna have to have, like you say, you're creating dual functionality. You're gonna have to have functionality in the ERP if depending on how that's set up. But maybe it's a speed question. That's the other thing, because they're a lot of the way the code is written. Apparently, you'd know that better than me, Sam. And just it's I saw it in several places. The thing is lightning fast, even under all situations, and so maybe they're able to get just a more responsive situation here that's worth having to reconcile, the source of truth information in two places potentially.
So not too sure about the speed, to be honest. Well, I think this is more of the bias that we see typically in the implementation. If you're going to come from the e-commerce background, your preferred platform always is going to be e-commerce. But in my mind, if I look at the clarity of the architecture, my preference always is, okay, how can you bring all of your transactions to your centralized system as fast as possible? Because that is just going to be easier overall from the maintenance perspective. But this is very common. Again, a lot of e-commerce companies, they all integrate punch out with the e-commerce platform. There could be valid reasons why they would do that. Let's say if there are going to be any sort of e-commerce use cases and you need to utilize e-commerce functionality. For example, let's say if you are keeping all your pricing and discount in your e-commerce and your ERP does not know about anything. I don't know why you would do that, but some companies have traditionally kept, let's say, the pricing and discount as part of e-commerce platform. Now they need to implement their punch out functionality. So punch out cannot actually go to your ERP because your pricing and discount resides in your e-commerce. So there could be a lot of different reasons why they would do that, but this is very common in our experience when we look at different e-commerce implementation.
But I think it just answered the question, right? If you're gonna deliver the most complete net order,
yeah,
then you're putting a lot more of the functionality up front, and these commerce platforms have a lot of more of that capability, right?
Exactly. And when you are looking at true omni-channel experience, your omni-channel is not going to be complete unless you bring the data that is actually sitting in your ERP. The whole idea of ERP is that is your centralized platform that is going to give you customer 360. You are never going to get omni-channel as part of your e-commerce, because e-commerce is just one channel or a couple of channels. It's not complete.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, Robert, anything? No.
No.
Okay, so these are the punch out catalog requests, and obviously, you have a lot more capabilities overall. From the technical standpoint, that you have a lot more traceability, because obviously this platform is designed by developers. It's very clear, so you are going to have a lot more bells and whistles from the development perspective, which is wonderful. So now let's read some of the comments, which I found impressive. So here they are saying, although Spryker has a lot of out-of-the-box features, you are usually going to have to integrate with many systems. Okay, number one thing that we did not touch is going to be overall ecosystem. Since it is fairly new and they are fairly lean, especially in North American market, you are not going to find as many options as you are going to find, let's say, in case of your Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento. So that is a huge consideration when you are exploring e-commerce platform, because the payment integration is probably one of the most critical factor for your e-commerce strategy. If you don't have the payment provider supported as part of your e-commerce platform, sure, you can hire 5 developers, and ask them to integrate, but who's going to pay for it? It becomes really expensive. So that's where the comprehensiveness of your payment and shipping features is probably going to be one of the factors that you should be looking at when you are evaluating the e-commerce platform. Here, the user is saying each of these touch points is a point of failure. I could not agree more. Okay, this is the language that I like to hear from the users when they really understand that when you are adding two pieces, doesn't matter how awesome the piece is, the glue is going to be a glue, and glue is always going to be the weakest point in your architecture. So they are absolutely right there that when you are trying to patch all of these together, it's going to have very high chances of breaking. So you definitely need to keep that in mind, that reduce number of systems, reduce the number of integrations that you are going to have in your architecture, and you are going to have far easier life. Here they are saying, in addition, the US market is still relatively new for a Spryker, which is true, to decide the best practices in some areas. Then they are saying e-commerce solutions such as search, personalization, BI, loyalty, etc., is going to be fairly limited, and then you are going to be using external tools for that. Search, I understand you probably are going to be replacing your search capability that you don't like, that you might have out of the box. Personalization, I did not see that as part of the suite. In some of the other suites, you have personalization provided as part of the suite. So in this case, you are dealing with a third-party vendor. BI is tricky. If you're looking at simply the e-commerce BI, then obviously you probably would require that. But typically, BI would mean the enterprise dashboard, not only for sales and marketing, it's also going to be your finance and operations. So you probably need to require a comprehensive strategy. And then the loyalty is probably going to reside in your e-commerce platform. In this particular case, I don't know if they have loyalty or not. At least I did not see that. So those integrations might not be available as part of the Spryker platform. Here they are saying, since Spryker is a newer platform, the integration ecosystem is not there yet. Could not agree more, although this is being addressed with the new Spryker app orchestration platform.
That last one is a big one, though. And it looks like, I don't know if that record is part of this May 2022 record, Sam, but if that's pretty current, this business model, this structure, or this software structure model, to not have a lot of other things ready to go that you can attach to it, I see that as troubling. It's a severe limitation.
And that's why it is not meant to be an SMB solution. There's no way.
Yeah.
It is meant to be enterprise solution where you have a lot of development dollars.
Yeah. So that comes back to the earlier point Robert made. They're offering, everything I read on these guys early was that it was a developer product. Even their licensing model was often around developer use. And yet they're saying, well, no, you can get a lot out of box. You can buy it this way. You can buy it that way. I'm not so sure that's completely, I don't think that holds up when you look at this product. Maybe so far, I don't know that holds up. It's a developer product still in my mind.
Almost all of the reviews and the negative comments that I read on different platforms talks about how you can achieve the results that you want with the appropriate development team. And so if you're a smaller player and don't have the budget, you will be disappointed.
So that being said, then what's the differentiation between these guys that are heavily developer? You just need a solid foundation and a good team. I'm not sure why I would pick one against the other then.
Exactly.
What are they giving me, right?
Your own.
I'm almost going to whiteboard this thing anyways, right?
Well, and that comes down to, one of the things I said before is many shops are very not code agnostic, right? So you've got mean shops, so they want Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node. So that's going to be, like the FANG company. So it's going to be like Google, PayPal, Uber, etc. A lot of companies, that are using headless are, doing JavaScript on the front end because it's really, really fast. And then on the back end, maybe they're going to use an older language like PHP because it's so much cheaper to get a PHP developer than it is a Java developer. Or, if you go with Ruby on Rails is fast, but they're expensive.
Yeah, but the only clarification I would make there, Robert, when you are going to be doing Java, it has a lot of different boilerplate overall when you are going to be using those platforms. It's just very hard to develop, okay? when you are going to be, and by the way, if you talk about JavaScript 10 years back, I hated it. Okay. I would never approve. As the IT director, I would never approve JavaScript. But today, JavaScript is very different. Okay. JavaScript has got similar capabilities as Java used to have in terms of the tight coupling of the object, in terms of the control. Okay. 10 years back, everything used to error out. You had no clue what was happening inside your JavaScript. But today, it's a very typed programming language, and that's the reason why even the server programming you are doing in JavaScript nowadays, people are creating ERPs on JavaScript. So
yeah, we've got the whole spectrum of IT departments out there. We've got very forward thinking, very flexible teams, and we've got very stubborn, fixed teams. I can't think of a better way of putting it. This is what we have. These are the teams that we have. This is what our framework looks like. This is our stack. We're not going to change from it.
Yeah. All right, guys. So some more comments here overall. So here they are saying taking some of the processing load of your ERP system, NetSuite, to speed it up. And this is the comment that is coming from the user, where they utilize Spryker because they wanted to reduce the load on your ERP system. That's not making a lot of sense, to be honest. I don't think speed should be looked in this way. Typically, if you are trying to reduce the load of your ERP system, most likely you have outgrown your ERP system. You are trying to use much smaller ERP system, and you should be replacing that first before trying to bring an enterprise platform. So I'm not sure if I agree with that comment there. Then they are saying handling the complexities of franchise system to enable us to accelerate our digital presence into e-commerce. That's where their play is, that whole franchise system. When you have a lot of different distributor or the franchisee in your ecosystem or in the channel, that's where I think their sweet spot is going to be. And then they are saying deliver a highly customized point of sale system that we were not able to achieve from the many vendors. Again, that seems to be very developer driven comment. To be honest, why the point of sale system needs to be customized, I'm not too sure about that, unless you are overthinking it. Point of sale system should be super simple overall, and should be user friendly for the cashiers that are trying to actually enter those transactions. I'm personally not sure if I have seen any complexity in the point of sale system, based on any industries, and I can take some rebuttals there if you guys have seen anything from the POS perspective.
I've seen badly designed systems that they put undue pressure on the frontline worker because it was developed by a developer as opposed to a business user.
But if you got a lousy ERP, I'm going to go buy something else to take pressure off it.
Yep.
It doesn't quite sound like going at the problem. It's just saying.
Exactly, guys. So here, some more comments, guys, before we open up for the commentary again. So here, for building a great marketplace with millions of products, guys, this is where the trick is. Millions of products is the key word. So again, when you are going to have those many SKUs and those many transactions, a lot of platforms are going to struggle. Okay. So this is where the key is of Spryker, that it is designed for those enterprise scenarios. Now they are saying Spryker is a system for ambitious e-commerce projects with a high degree of customization and enterprise requirements. There is no simple answer. Don't expect it to be ready out of the box and within 3 days. That's not the purpose of the platform. So please don't utilize if you're going to be SMB. We realized marketplaces with more than 550 million products. Guys, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Okay. Real-time quotation and inventory checks from several hundred distributors and individual business requirements, such as uploading part list with thousands of items via drag and drop to place your order. Again, it's a big deal, guys. Here they are saying, they have utilized some of the, they have integrated with the car databases, fleet management systems, and that's where, when you are looking at dealer specific workflows of your e-commerce system, that's going to be a very different e-commerce experience, and you have a little bit of complexity there. So those are the enterprise use cases where this platform is going to be a very good fit. Here, some more comments here. We are moving from a D2C only platform with a host of issues to a feature-rich D2C platform and the distribution platform. Yeah, so they are trying to offer some sort of experience. I don't have anything there overall from the comment perspective. Some more comments, guys. If you look at the number of employees in these companies, they are going to have 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. That is the size of the companies are trying to use this platform. That's where the real power is, to be honest. And Phil, when you are going to be processing this kind of transaction, and if you are going to be designing the platform by on your own, good luck with that implementation. Okay, you are going to be losing $1 billion at least 5 times before you get it right. That's how complex it gets. It's not easy to process a million transaction or a billion transaction when you are trying to develop that kind of infrastructure. Here you are getting something that is already tested by a lot of different companies, and you already know that this is going to work. So that's a huge plus in my mind for the enterprise scenarios. Very good performance in terms of latency. Here they are saying 300 item lines in one order. So I think that's where they have the limitation of the platform, that they are not able to handle that. So you have some limitation. So obviously, when you are going to hit that, in the case of B2B, you are going to have scenarios where companies are going to be ordering 1,000 line items as part of your order. So obviously this is going to fail, and that's where you are going to get either Salesforce Commerce, SAP Hybrid. So these guys are not there yet overall in their enterprise workflow right now. That's where you are going to go for those platforms. So here you are probably going to hit the limitation when you are going to have more than 300 line items as part of your order. I don't have anything else. I can open up for commentary unless you guys have. The final comment that I would make is they don't really have the same continuous development and the integration pipeline that we could see in the case of SAP. And when you are talking about, in fact, Oracle has that as well. So when you are looking at enterprise level, promotion and the deployment of different features, when you are going to have multiple developers working on this, it's not going to be simply your Git-based promotion. It's going to be far deeper than that, because you have your CMS as well as your code. So both of those need to go together, and releasing those is extremely difficult. I don't know if that is all going to be possible using Git, but you require the native capabilities for your continuous integration and the deployment, and that's what we saw in case of SAP Hybris that I am not seeing here.
So it almost feels like with the with Commerce Tools and with this platform, the origin almost feels like to me like that it started with the European automotive segment, and some really smart developers stood up websites that were highly functional for that model. Really important customer experience, a lot of dealer activity, a lot of volume activity because of the way they set it up. And it's almost like they said, well, let's now make a business model out of this and see if we can sell that type of capability in other industries that might have similar things. And it's smart, but it feels young to me. It feels like it's still cooking. And I think we hit it that I came into this, the research I had was this was a developer platform where if you have to Robert's early point, if you had a really rocking development team, that this thing could give you a great customization, a lot of front end speed, a lot of capability. But if you get outside that to smaller companies that don't have that strong piece, they're out of their lane very quickly at this point without some more work.
Albert?
One of the things that we see with this is it feels like it was B2B focused, and they've tried to extend it to B2C, and that's fine. But I think they may be trying to bring in more customers, and the marketing team is doing a really great job of explaining some features and functionalities that are available to it, but they're not clearly stating you need to be enterprise level. And so they get some folks that are bright-eyed and looking at the pretty new bauble and thinking, ooh, this maybe we can grow into this, without fully appreciating what comes with trying to reach that level. And, when they finally get there, they realize, oh man, there is a lot of customization. The types of teams that are going to be really successful with this are going to be the organizations that have a CIO, that have a large dedicated IT team. They are blended with onshore, offshore, and nearshore staff to deal with, specific things. They have a PMO that is experienced in replatforming complex systems. That's what this is. This is not just your simple, we're going to go from Shopify to something else. This is, you're in the big boys group now, and you're dealing with complexity. And so
an innovative mindset, and like you said earlier, Robin, and an innovative mindset, not stability. That's built on what we have. Let's be careful. That's not going to fly, no matter how big the IT team is.
So some of the things that I saw in there were really edge case issues. So people go in there and look at the happy path. Can we hit the happy path? But they don't have their edge cases clearly defined. And that will help you set up your project management. That will help you set up your development teams and help you fully understand, do we really want to take this on? Like, they don't have a discounting model. They don't have a coupon model. They don't have subscription models. Okay, well, that's not their sweet spot. That's not what this system was designed for. You should have known that before you got into the contract stage.
Okay, amazing, guys. Any other comments? I can probably take just a few short ones, and then we need to wrap.
Nope.
Okay. Wonderful. So that's a wrap, guys. So if you are in that marketplace game where you are trying to innovate your business model and you need a platform for your enterprise scenarios, that's where Spryker is going to be a great fit. So again, if you are that complex from the business model perspective, you should definitely be looking at Spryker. On that note, that's it for today. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our e-commerce series, for which we meet every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We pick one vendor or the solution that we review independently. So make sure you guys are going to be here next week. We are going to come back with another vendor or the solution. On that note, thanks everyone for your time and insights tonight.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.